Balikan natin ang ating mga karambulista at ang programa Karambola sa DWIZ.
Oh, Karambola, Karambola, tuwing umaga. Oh, oh, Karambola, Karambola. Sa DWIZ 882.
Nagbabalik ang Karambola, kasama pa rin sa impilan, Jonathan de la Cruz, ako po si Trixie Cruz Angeles. So, wala bang chismis?
wala pa tayong natatanggap ng mga chismis. Puro mga, puro mga problema galing sa probinsya, problema galing sa kung saan. Ang daming mga ganon na ayusin, etc. and everything para matrabaho lang. Alam mo, we have to take care of our forces
Yes.
Actually, yan ang nakakaligtaan ng mga administrasyon kung minsan. The triumphalism is so great that they forget people who were or who are or have been in the battlefield. Nakakalimutan. Yun ang mga kailangan natin asikasuhin. Kailan may nag-aasikasong mga grupo dyan?
Yan.
Kasi pag nakaligta mo yung mga tumulong sa'yo, o maliit man yan o malaki, o ang nakikita mo lang yung mga nag-contribute ng mga malalaking pondo, babalik tayo dun sa dating gawi. Makakaligta mo yung mga tao na nag-volunteer sa'yo, for example, gumastos para sa'yo, wala silang hiningi, nakipag-ugnay lang, yung mga minsan pa nga yung kaugnayan nila doon hindi na nare-recognize. So yun ang mga hahanapin, maghanap sila ng paraan para na makita katlat. Yun ang nagiging problema natin sa ngayon, sa not only in this particular activity, but in other previous things. Maraming mga ganon. Even in the case of PRRD, for example, may mga tao na alam ko na parang napag-iwanan.
Naalala niyo yung sinasabi ni Senator Amy dati na there was for like a whole month after nanalo si Presidente Duterte, ang tawag niya the Davao Employment Agency kasi ang daming nag-apply. Sabi niya, naubos ang mga abogado, naubos yung ang galing-galing talaga ni Senator Ivy mag-incise ng problema. So the problem was that the recruitment was going on from yung masyadong close. Pero dito, I don't see that happening kasi sinabi na ni BBM kagabi na whether tumulong o hindi, the objective would be to put in the best people possible.
Yes, and yun. Sa tingin ko, okay yun. But you have to start with your with people that you have been working with. You have been able to develop some kind of relationship, and you know how they are going to perform. Diba?
That's part of the looking at track records din, diba?
Tama naman yung sinasabi niya na performance, experience, at saka being close to the agenda, being outlined by the incoming administration. For example, these are very, very clear signals kung paano gagawin. But you can must. A lot of people must themselves. They come out with shibboleths or kaya mga na itong gusto ng presidente, incoming president. Totoo kami dyan, okay kami dyan, etc. But if you take a look at their track record, if you take a look at what they've done, and if you take a look at who their friends are, then you will know. Yun lang ang akin dyan. So, it takes a lot of patience on the part of the incoming administration and the transition group that will take a look at all of these things to really vet properly. And that is why you will need all kinds of information coming from all kinds of people that you can rely on. Yun ang importante dyan. Sa tingin ko. Lalo na, as I said, you have 5,000 new appointees if you want to appoint all of them at the presidential level. Then you will be able to know. Office by office yan. Office by office yan. Who are you going to depend on as far as this particular office is concerned? Who is your, let us say, appointment or your expert on this particular office? For example, press office. Sino-sino yung mga nando doon? What have they done? What are they going to do? What is your idea of the press office? Diba? Mga ganong klase. Or NCCA, what is their charter? What other agencies are within the ambit of the NCCA? The same is true. Lalo na yung mga vast bureaucracy like agriculture.
Agree. Yan ang nasa news ngayon kasi mag-a-apply daw si Dar.
Ha?
Mag-a-apply daw. Mag-a-apply daw. The current secretary is going to apply for the position.
Agriculture, ganyan. Transportation, yung mga ganyan. Education, of course, nandiyan na si Vice President elect Inday. That will also require a huge effort to take a look at that particular bureaucracy because that is the biggest bureaucracy.
I think that I understand. I have a bit of an understanding of why siya kasi diba si Secretary Briones has done a good job. Ang hirap kasi pag DepEd, unang-una ang dami meron ng mga biases
Super.
Na hindi natin ma-weed out. Merong mga galit sa public school teachers. Pagka nagpo-post ako about DepEd, may mga yung mga canards. Tamad kasi yung mga yan mga ganun na, how can you say that? They're so overburdened. How can you even say that? Tapos yung mga mahirap talagang linisin. Textbooks na even the best secretaries will have a hard time kasi to navigate not just the bureaucracy, but the entrenched interests in there. Kaya Inday talaga, I understand why siya.
Pati
because she's uncompromising.
Pati yun na lang, hiring system. The hiring and firing system. That's it.
And promotions.
That includes everything. Hiring and firing includes the promotion, di ba?
Kasi,
you're talking about a bureaucracy that has about, almost 500,000 people.
He's bigger than the AFP.
Yeah, definitely bigger than the AFP. At saka yan, at least yung AFP, maliwanag ang mga rules.
Yes. Yung qualifications.
That is a military organization. The military, they have their own rules, ways of doing things, no? So, yan ang mga kailangan na work. That is why you will need experience and experts. Yun yung sinasabi natin palagi.
And balancing those two, experience and expertise.
And then, of course, pati yung background information. Sino ba ito mga tao? Sino mga kausap dito? Saan ba nanggal? Di ba yung ganong klase? I think in the case of President Duterte, mayroon siya, nadala ng kanyang political will, nadala ng kanyang persona, yung pag-aawak ng bureaucracy. But in terms of nag-slow down because precisely he did not have the kind of
mababaw yung bangko
mababaw talaga. Na medyo pang-anoan niya. So, yun ang challenge that will come as we go along.
Yeah. Pero,
kagaya niyan, sinasabi mo, Trixie, openly ba nag-apply si Secretary Dar?
Na-report.
Ganun. Wow.
Parang he's setting himself up for heartache, I think.
Hindi. Ano kasi dyan, there is a group, an academic group within the circle of, I know these people secretary there na promoting that kind of and one of them is a very close friend of ours from Ilocos days.
Okay.
I understand he's one of the consultants now as far as the sector is concerned. So siguro lang kaya nga na-encourage natin yung mga, since the President-elect has already said that he will get the best and the brightest. We encourage our friends, those who whether you have supported him or not, to come out with names and give them a chance to be interviewed or to be given the opportunity to present themselves, etc. As soon as practicable. You can kasi yung even as people are saying, hindi pa kayo elected dyan, etc., etc., hindi pa kayo proclaim, etc., and everything else, I think mas mabilis ito ngayon kaysa the previous one Kasi in the previous one, you have to go through those processes and everything. Ito, overwhelming ang mo. So, you can already assume that you are given the mandate and therefore, you have to be prepared. Kasi
mas may oras ito. Itong, Nung kay Presidente Duterte, medyo may period pa na na nagduda. Pinagduda tayo. It was clear that he was winning. We didn't know what the other side was going to do.
Pinagduda, and at the same time, a lot of obstacles were coming his way from the then current administration. Kasi hindi naman siya binibigyan ng hindi siya binibigyan ng puwang para lang access to certain things, etc. But that particular process has to be worked out properly para the turnover can be proper and responsive.
Yun. Well,
so
if the rumor mill is true, we might have some difficulty in certain departments.
That's what I understand.
Kumbaga, there's some people who are not going to go quietly. Or if they do, merong iba dyan scorched earth. So we need to be on guard with regard to these departments.
Saka yung iba kasi, they want to have their
cake and eat it too.
Well, cake and eat it too, you can say it that way. O kaya, yung mga iba naman, they want to have their trail covered. Di ba? Kaya
nga naman.
Nakikipag-debate sila or sila para yung kanilang ginawa under this administration medyo magkaroon ng medyo yung susunod na papasok dun sa agency na yan, medyo mayroon pa lang silang lingering influence.
Yeah, so yung I remember when I once talked with Heidi Orak when she was her last position was chair of the PCGG.
Oh, the PCGG.
Sabi niya talaga that when they went into PCGG, the files were missing. Kasi nga, di ba, paper shredders. There are so many paper shredders sa PCGG to destroy evidence daw.
Dapat nga tingnan natin ngayon, lumalakas ba ang pagbili ng mga paper?
Tingnan natin yung budget.
Malakas benta ng mga paper shredders ngayon. Kung hindi man yung mga pampatunaw. Biglang nag-erase dyan sa mga memory ng meron biglang nahahatak na mga hard drive dyan. Hard drives dyan, mga computer, etc. and everything. Alam mo yun ang nagiging problema minsan Trixie. Unlike in the US, for example, and in other developed countries or even in ASEAN, yung transition has become in many, not only in the Philippines, but in, for example, in Thailand, medyo problemado rin sila doon dahil yung next administration medyo counter Mabuti kung meron continuity, hindi masyado magiging malaking problema yun. Medyo ang Duterte administration naman friendly
Yes.
It's a friendly. Unlike in the case of going to Duterte, medyo hindi
openly
friendly.
hostile.
Kaya may
Hindi
mga-
lang medyo openly hostile.
Kaya may mga dokumento, mga importanteng mga papers, etc. na hindi na na-turn over na mabuti. And then some of these were used against the incoming administration when it was already working, na nagagamit yun. So, importanteng yan. Kaya malaking trabaho yan, malaking trabaho yan.
Ganda. Yung may poster na nilalabas na na BBM, tapos yung superimposed yung first B merong highlighted na 3, tapos yung second B 1. Tapos yung M is highlighted also. So BBM, 31 million. So, I like that.
Yeah.
It's very positive, Ngayon, what do we do about the sour grapes? The picon. Ako, ang suggestion ko, aside from heckling them on social media, to ignore. Because as the elections have shown, medyo konti lang Plus, ang dami nang nagpo-post na nag-move on na sila. Tanggap nila yung outcome nung halalan, and tanggap nila na may ibang presidente na, may bagong presidente at hindi nanalo yung manok nila. Meron na, even yung mga like
the concessions have been have been
Manny
very,
Pacquiao,
very,
Isko Moreno, I think Ping Lacson finished na rin.
in a sense. Si Tito Sen.
Tito Sen, Ernie Abella, Norberto Gonzalez, Doc Willie, who's always gracious anyways. Doc Willie is really like that. He's very personable and very upright.
And I understand many of the foreign, our neighbors in ASEAN, for example, have come out with congratulatory messages. Even the U.S. newspapers, openly hostile before to now to the Marcoses, have been grudgingly acknowledging yung victory, the win of
Ito yung sinasabi ni Boss Conrad na decisive It's a decisive victory.
It's a decisive.
Kaya medyo malaki, and the counting now is over, so this is the final outcome, 31 million. Tumataginting na 31 million.
And that is why the challenges will be very, very, I would say, talagang super monumental. At saka, the expectations are very, very high from our people, no? Talagang inano itong unit team na ito, talagang ang nagdala nito ay mga tao. At kaya sila na nagdala dyan dahil yung sinasabi nga ni BBM na, of course, unity and inclusiveness, which is, of course, needs to be translated into
yes.
realizable, I would say. Talagang fundamentally necessary expectations at saka sa ating mga tao. Kaya ang tinatawag doon yung ramdam. Pagramdam. Halimbawa, sa ngayon, daming pumasok kagad. Una, yung tungkol sa fuel. Tumaas. Siyempre, maraming tataas kagad dyan. Yung pagtaas ng gasolina, maraming tataas kagad dyan. Pati yung mga clamor ng iba't ibang sektor pagdating sa mga ayuda. Anong gagawin mo dyan? One big issue yan. Yung tungkol sa high prices ng mga iba't ibang commodities, iba't ibang mga pagkain lahat, etc. Ano yan? Yung debt, of course, we have about 13 trillion pesos worth of debt. So, what are you supposed to do with that? No? Yan yung mga Tapos, of course, yung expected na power rate increases as a result of the fuel prices at lahat, no? And of course, papasok tayo sa June, July, rainy months, etc., and everything, disasters and all of these things. Of course, isang dapat na tingnan kagad dyan yung tungkol sa budget. What do you have as a means of running your government? Because this is not your budget. This is the budget of the incumbent administration. So anong flexibility mo dyan? I hope somebody is looking at these numbers at this point in time para maging maliwanag. And if there is already an effort to take a look at who will be the next budget secretary, ano yan, very critical yan. Finance secretary, budget secretary.
This is yung sinasabing economic team na
DTI.
dapat ano.
And then of course the balancing, no, because while you are talking of the economic fundamentals. The economic fundamentals means people as well. As a matter of fact, mas importante yung tao dun. And so that is the reason why we are saying that one of the priorities of the administration has been articulated by no less than the President-elect is jobs, jobs, jobs. If you're talking about jobs, 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 you're talking about how are you supposed to work out a system by which you'll be able to promote sustainable growth and job creation without impairing the ability of government to be able, and the private sector to really participate in that kind of an effort. Kagaya niyan, sa ngayon kasi, overwhelming yung influence ng economic team headed by Secretary Dominguez. On the entire bureaucracy, on the entire bureaucracy, parang sila nagdala ng okay lang naman yun because the President took care of the security, peace and order, etc.
Everything else
siya nagdala dito. But that particular effort has impaired many of the other initiatives that should have been taken over. For example, mas naging importante importation.
Yung DAR policy would not have been possible without a directive from the DOF or at least guidance from the DOF. Totoo yan.
Yun ang mga nagiging problem. So, na-marginalize itong mga productive sectors in a sense. Kasi ito yung productive sectors What are the productive sectors here? Number one, of course, agriculture. Importante yan. DTI, DAR, agrarian reform, these are DNR, yan, mga productive sectors. Yes, because this is where most of your wealth creation efforts, dyan mo makukuha yun. At dyan din karamihan ang mga tao. Dyan din karamihan ang mga tao. Kaya pag hindi mo napag-ayos ito, ang magiging problema, kaya nga sinasabi nila na despite the efforts of the Duterte administration, poverty has become more problematic in many areas of the country. Why? Because nagiging natatabunan ng financial requirements. Aside from the pandemic, yung mga financial initiatives, kagaya niyan, hindi ba pinag-uusapan natin yung tungkol dun sa mga rate increases?
Yes.
Water, energy, etc. and everything. These are all controlled in a sense. These are controlled services and these are contracted services.
Yes.
Na parang walang capability in government to even moderate or mitigate all of these things. So yan ang mga nagiging malaking mga problema na haharapin ng administration na papasok.
The ambassador of Japan in the Philippines on his Twitter account tweeted, "My sincerest congratulations to the Philippines for its conduct of the 2022 national elections. Honored to have witnessed firsthand this incredible exercise of democracy. I look forward to working with the new administration in bringing Japan-Philippines ties to greater heights."
Ganda yan.
Bakit importante yung mga ganitong congratulatory messages? Parang yung remember nung si GMA, 86 also, and then with second nung kay GMA. The first time sa 86, because of the direct participation of the US, in that event,
in the transfer of power.
Transfer of power. Okay, so that's the most objective way of saying it. Na they were the first, of course, to recognize, and other parties followed suit afterwards. This recognition is important in establishing sovereignty. Kasi yung sovereignty natin includes
recognition.
Yes, it's how we affirmed by recognition of other nation states. So,
and it is a stabilizing factor because pag mayroong recognition by other states, that means all the other contending parties internally, medyo huhupa yung kanilang mga
ambitions of them.
Not only ambitions, pero yung kanilang galit.
Ambition yung iba dyan.
Ano dyan na mabuti, no? So, importante yan. That's why we have to take a look. I understand that not yet the incumbent governments of these countries, but their parties have already come out with some congratulatory messages. For example, in the case of Indonesia, the biggest political party, which is part of the ruling coalition, Golkar, has already sent its message. In the case of Singapore, the party has already, yung People's Reform Party has already also issued their congratulatory messages. So magaganda itong mga ito. What we are, of course, we look forward to the big powers coming out with their own, now that Japan has already issued through the ambassador its kind of message. So malaking bagay yan. We hope that the ASEAN nations, the 10 ASEAN members of the ASEAN, will eventually come out. Siguro in the next few days, baka madali na rin yan. Will work out para matrabaho.
So that's, sa US, it's the Secretary of State that issued the congratulatory message. So
nagsalita na siya?
Oo, naka-post na sa website nila.
Okay, that's good.
So we're just waiting for the parang kumbaga formality na lang yung sa President of the US.
Yes.
So
the heads of the state of these countries will probably come out with that.
I think this is we should savor this moment. Kasi this is exactly what the opponents in the last election were saying was not going to happen. So
kasi sila they were
stuck in that narrative.
Hoping against it that there's going to be a lot of angst, anger, etc. People will not accept. The public will not accept this results, etc. And everything. Well, pag ganyan naman kalaki na paano pa ba ang gagawin mo, di ba? As a matter of fact, ano ka na? You will actually be
parang weird lang that I guess it's expected. It's expected that there will be sore losers given yan in any contest, electoral or otherwise.
And more so in this case kasi heavily invested sila in their own narrative. That is their problem.
That's true.
Ito yung grupo na ito yung grupo not anybody but Marcos from the very start.
Yeah.
Diba?
Yeah, they wouldn't say it, pero yeah.
From the time that for President-elect BBM started to get into the national political scene, ito na yung mga tao hindi po pwede yan, ganito yan, ganyan. Senator, congressman muna, senator, etc. Hindi, ililimit natin siya dyan sa Ilocos, that is their stronghold, let him be there, etc. He should never be part of the national conversation, yung mga ganong klase. So, ganyan ang sitwasyon na nangyari dyan. And they have carried on this narrative for 36 years. So, ang hirap nilang tanggalin sa kanilang mga sarili yung ganun na things have changed. The world move on.
Yun. Totoo yan. the inability to adapt. That's why you lose Diba? Anong sabi niya? It's a theory of evolution. It isn't the survival of the fittest, it's the survival of the one who can best adapt to the situation. So, may mga species that will survive kasi nga nag-adapt sila. Elephants got smaller because yung laki ng woolly mammoth, wala nang resources to sustain that. So lumiit sila para less resources. Hindi na malamig, so nawala na yung wool. Yan, umikli yung tasks para mas madali i-handle and so on. So
evolution
Yes, it's evolution. So if you're unable, parang yung ibang mga journalists cannot adapt to the idea na may social media na. So I'm going to be nasty about this. So but more on this later pagbalik ng Karambola. Oras natin 9:33 ng umaga.
Balikan natin ang ating mga karambulista at ang programa Karambola sa DWIZ.
Karambola, Karambola, tuwing umaga.
Nagbabalik ang Karambola kasama sa impilan, Jonathan De La Cruz. Ako po si Trixie Cruz Angeles. Happy 31st anniversary, Aliw Broadcasting, spreading our wings.
Aliw Broadcasting has been very active in bringing about a number of issues, a number of and talagang it's been a pro-people, pro-country kind of station na nadidiscuss yung mga kailangan na i-discuss at na ibibigyan ng totoong informasyon at sinasabi nga natin, opinion, yung mga ibang, yung opinion, yung mga opinion portions, opinion po yun, hindi. Minsan nakagalit yung mga kaibigan natin, bakit kayo ganyan? Opinion nga po.
Opinion.
Hindi naman po ito news program
Hindi naman, I mean, merong, ang counterpart natin is also CNN, by the way. So it means na this station, Aliw Broadcasting, actually has a spectrum of opinions. So which I think we should be encouraging. Ito yung maganda in the 6 years and especially during these last elections, it's the rise of the little ones. UNTV, SMNI, DWIZ now with the televition station.
Yes.
So yung mga startups, this is what, in fact, yung SMNI is what Rappler had hoped to become, but because toxic.
Ang nangyari dito, if you're talking about democratization of institutions, malaking bagay ang nangyari dito under the Duterte administration, na break up yung monopolies. In a sense,
nawala yung ABS-CBN.
Not that we wanted to. Kasalanan naman nila yun.
Self-inflicted yun Masyadong
sila But tama yun. And that means that now our people have better chances of making the real choices. Di ba? Kasi ang gusto naman natin mangyari in the public is informed choice. Dito naman sa atin, hindi our program Karambola, banatan nyo kami kung mali yung aming sinasabi na facts.
Oo, correct.
Pero yung opinion namin, opinion po namin yun.
You cannot impose opinions.
Halimbawa, pag sinabi namin, hindi, under the drug war, 20,000. Ayan, 20,000.
Sige talaga.
Yan, di ba? Pero kung sinabi namin, hindi, ganito lang talaga yan. At saka, ito ang ginawa ng Presidente as far as the drug war is concerned. Dito yon. Pero pag sinabi, 20,000, hindi totoo. Yan hindi totoo. Yung mga, di ba, mga ganong klase.
Pero, I think we also have to learn to distinguish yung opinion, which is also naman factually based, and opinion, and news reporting, which is should be more factual. Hindi naman natin din masasabi na ang news reporting will be devoid of opinion kasi doon pa lang sa pagpili mo ng story.
Priority. Kaya nga merong, in the traditional media, mabuti wala dito si Conrad, kundi kakantsawan ako niya. Kasi,
Magkakataon na!
meron kasing 3 o'clock in traditional media, lalo na sa print, may 3 o'clock na activity.
Deadlines,
Sasabihin ninyo, ito yung editorial meeting, anong front page,
ano yung priority, ano yung storya, sa storya. Totoo yan.
So, yan ang mga, ngayon, na-break up din yan, in a real sense, especially in these elections, kasi yung social media played a very, very critical role. Mas pa kaysa nung panahon ni Presidente Duterte. Yung kay Presidente Duterte, naumpisahan niya yun di ba?
Yes.
Without his opponents, his political opponents, knowing it, siyang nag-creep in yung kanyang social media doon lumakas. Kaya nga niloloko ko si Pete Lavigne So, kasi siya yung isa sa mga nagtulak nung ganun And it became such a force to reckon with. And in this particular instance, the social media component of the BBM campaign was very, very effective. And it became a very critical component of that particular, of their particular campaign. Maganda ang nangyari doon.
Evolve or die. Because that is even businesses have to evolve, diba? The pandemic has showed that we can do this by we can work from home, we can order, we can use the internet for businesses, and then the deliveries can be a way of life.
Kaya nga hindi ba sinasabi natin na digitization becomes such a very critical and that is why very important na agency institution itong DICT. Kasi yan na magbibigay ng direksyon, also will provide the impetus for the real honest to goodness program of digitization for the entire country. Please remember that yung mga China has become such a napakano ang ng China because yan ang Trixie. I think yan ang naging there are two models as far as digitization. Let us just confine ourselves to digitization. Two models ang nangyari. One is the Chinese model, the other one is the US and European model. Yung Chinese model, government set in Sila nag-set up ng network, kaya that is why you have this Jack Ma's of the world, etc. and everything, 10 cents. Kasi government set in. Kaya government, very, very critical ang naging role as far as China is concerned. And single-minded yun. Kaya napakabilis. Hindi kagaya sa US, government din because they have the regulatory powers and everything, pero pabago-bago yun because it was so oriented towards the private sector. Di ba? AT&T nag-merge sa ganito. Bukas, iba na naman.
So US talaga private ang priority. We shouldn't make that our model. Kasi
patay tayo doon. If government does not set in.
Like healthcare. The US's main problem is healthcare. Kasi priority yung private.
Naging oriented towards that part.
Kaya yung di ba yung insurance is just an adaptation to the fact that it's all private or it's primarily private. Sa atin, hindi natin pwedeng gawin yun because we can't let people die simply because they don't have money for healthcare. It just,
Ang nakapag dyan, as far as healthcare, for example, is concerned, ang nakapag-adapt, in the sense na pwede natin gawin, na model is the French model.
Yes.
Yung French kasi, government sets in ganun din sa UK, yung National Health Service, in a sense, although nag-ano sila ngayon with the private sector, but more oriented towards government provided healthcare services. So, yan din ang kaya yun din na sinasabi natin palagi.
That's the dream.
As far as the health. Kasi importante po yun. Please remember, we are still in a pandemic. Hindi tayo nawawala dyan. Although, of course, our cases have really gone down. And then our healthcare system has become more attuned to the requirements of the situation. So, medyo maano na rin tayo ngayon.
Masaya. Well, ako kasi, every time the administration changes, there's a resurgence of hope that there's some things now that are going to be done. Yung kay Presidente Duterte, yung hope ko, mataas pero not as high as this one.
Ito, napakatindi nito.
Ang tindi ng expectations ko din for this one. Kasi with President Duterte, he had a lot of cleaning up to do. Nanggaling tayo from an administration that was othering all of us. Parang others tayo. Sila-sila lang. Like, the only citizens were the citizens that within that comfort zone. So, they were doing things that were good for them and not necessarily good for the public. It took a Duterte to reorient government towards service for everybody. So, and then to address long-standing issues that had been ignored. The insurgency,
Yes.
drugs. Yun talaga, parang it did not exist as a problem that government was taking care of. May lip service, may batas meron kang PIDEA, meron kang pero if you sa totoo lang, if you just look at PIDEA, the way it was set up prior to Duterte, makikita mo that it was just lip service. Kasi yung mga tao nila, hinihiram nila from other agencies.
Yes.
AFP, PNP, NBI, magpapa-secondment sa PIDEA. Hindi sila binigyan ng sarili nilang tao. So what's that? Para kang nagbebenta ng ayaw mong ipabili.
At ano yan, samantalang the law itself provides for a force.
Yes. Their own independent force na independent, I mean, from other law enforcement agencies. In other words, di sila sumasagot sa NAPOLCOM, di sila sumasagot sa director ng NBI. Sila, yung PIDEA head, ang head ng ano na yan. And it should be a force that was formidable enough kasi mga sindikato na mayayaman ang ano doon. So it was like the DEA, initially patterned after the US's DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency nila, na pati yung pera, pagka meron silang in the US, they have a separate fund. Pag meron silang na take down, let's say na drug lord o drug cartel, yung assets nun will go to the DEA and they can use that for their own operations. Kasi it takes money to take down syndicates that also have a lot of money. So, kailangan may panlaban. Hindi tayo nabigyan ng ganon dun sa batas natin.
Masyado tayo naging doon. Yung tama yung sinasabi mo, Trixie. Parang yung ang model mo pang Portugal. Di ba? Yung rehabilitation, etc. Ilan bang mga communities doon ang drug infested? Di ba mga ganong klase?
Grabe, deadly. Portugal din ba yung hindi nagko-concede?
Oo, ito yung ito yung sindikato na nga nandito, cartel na nga nandito, tapos ang mo...
Cartels,
Ang panlaban mo, ganun.
Yung panlaban mo, yung panis na panis. Parang yung even the NBI itself na parang barya yung binibigay para sa mga ahente para sa kanilang mga informants, para sa kanilang mga gasolina, lip service parang ayaw ba natin ng enforcement? Bakit natin tinitipid? Bakit? You know that the NBI should have its own fund. Doon pa lang sa mga NBI clearances, ang laki ng kita nun, but none of it goes to the NBI. It goes to Treasury.
Walang retention?
Wala. Wala. So, national budget lang ang source nila. And of course, we know that's limited. Kasi kailangan nakalista yan, nakabudget yan, inapprove yung budget na yan ng Kongreso. So, you cannot go beyond that. Very little yung flexibility. Again, another example of parang ayaw niya yata gawin ito ng Kongreso.
You're left on your own. Yan ang nagiging malaking problema dyan and even the police in a sense, no? Pero kalagay NBI is just it's a national force. It's supposed to have its own means to handle a very, very critical task, no? So, hindi nabibigyan ng ganun na You're left on your own. Paghanap ka ng sarili mong parang means.
Oo.
Mali.
Bahala kang dumiskarte. So, yung yung nag-a-advance dyan, yung madiskarte. Imbis na yung talagang masigasig sa pag-investigate.
Saka maayos ang gagawin, no? Diba yun ang nangyayari. Kaya napupuno tayo ng mga problema eh. So yung sinasabi mo, Trixie, tungkol dun sa paring down of the layers in the bureaucracy, important yun. And that involves a lot of these agencies. Lalo na yung mga grabing critical na mga agencies, agriculture, health, armed forces, DILG, DOTR, ang daming paring down ng education, dyan na lang nga, pinag-uusapan lang natin tungkol sa press office eh. The way you should be handling your communications, because ang na-realize pati natin in this particular election, napaka-importante yung communications group mo. Messaging, the way you handle your communications, the way you work out, how to inform your constituents, your public, and everything else, and then how to balance this with the yung bahanap naman sa'yo, yung napaka-importante yan. And there is an entire bureaucracy that handles the communications for government na hindi na napagtutuunan ng pansin. We have institutional that are really government, PTB4, PAA, yung mga radio broadcasting, meron tayo niyan, radyo ng bayan, may mga ganyan na institutions na hindi man lang na bigyan ng pagkakataon na ma-develop na mabuti at lahat. Sayang yung mga ganyan na mga institutions.
I'm watching the DA, the agriculture. This should be exciting. Kasi tagal natin nagre-report on agriculture.
Yung agriculture, napaka-importante na naintindihan natin lahat kung ano itong mga agencies. Yung palang agencies, ano mga mandate ng... Alam na natin, siyempre, ang agricultural mandate na agriculture to provide productivity for our agricultural sector, food security, and of course jobs, because that is driver. Agricultural development, agricultural productivity is a driver of jobs. So, kung naglalagbihan dyan, maraming problema. So, we have the traditional agricultural sectors, coconut, sugar, yung
kamusta nga pala ang coconut industry natin?
Natin kailan ayusin dyan. So,
coconut.
Napaka-importanting, may agency in charge of coconut. There are two agencies, Philippine Coconut Authority, and of course we have the CIIF, which is the Coconut Industry Investment Fund, which handles all of these coconut oil mills, etc. And and then we have now a new thing, which is the trust fund, no? So I don't know how it is being handled right now. Napaka-importanting handling yan, because that is where the billions of pesos of that have been accumulated under the coconut investment in the Coconut Industry Investment Fund. Nagkaroon ngayon ng merger by some executive order. Nagme-merge ang UCPB at saka Land Bank. That has to be looked into all over again. Kasi marami dyan ng mga nakatago. I don't know how they are going to handle that.
May news ba tayo dun sa statement ni presumptive Vice President Inday Sara? Meron kasing lumalabas. May breaking daw eh.
Meron.
May statement
yung tungkol
daw
sa as Secretary of Education.
Lumabas na ba? May acceptance na ba? May breaking eh.
Oo.
Pakicheck yung news.
Nyo lang.
Si Inday may statement na daw.
Tungkol sa because she has been named as the incoming Secretary of Education.
Good job. I think exciting to, mag-imbak kayo ng popcorn. Sinasabi ko sa inyo na she's how do you call this? She understands the bureaucracy, number one. But she has this can-do attitude that you get from local government eh. Parang si Presidente Duterte, galing siya sa pagka-mayor, alam niya na may experience siya as a congressman, so he knows how this all works together. So pagdating niya sa presidency, yung attitude niya, yung attitude ng mayor.
Can do.
May sige, may sagot diyan. Gawin natin 'to. Ito yung paraan. So yung instead of saying, hindi talaga pwede yan. Walang pera para diyan.
Magkaiba yan, process.
Iba yung mindset eh. Ako nasanay ako sa yung pagka meron kang binring up, the rare occasions that you can actually ask presidents, what are you going to do with hindi ba gagawin ganito, or you ask heads of agencies, wala po kasing pera para dyan yung ganon na answer.
That is the bureaucratic answer.
Yikes. Because it's a government official's answer. Sure, when you bring up a new idea, syempre wala pa sa budget yan. So, they're not lying pag sinabi nila na walang pera para dyan. Pero naman, gawan nyo ng paraan. O sige, walang pera ngayon. O next year, baka pwede na yan.
Gawan nyo na. Itong mga ito, walang mga BDO culture Find ways.
we find ways. Akala ko yung sa mafia, we have ways to make you talk. Wala pa. Para kayo, ayun. Pasukin, sige, 3 minutes na lang. So after this, i-report na ni Ma'am Tina yung statement ni Presumptive Vice President.
Sabihin natin, what did she say anyway?
Tinatanggap na ang alok ni BBM na maging susunod na kalihim ng DepEd.
Yun. Importante yun.
Good. It means na
ano yan? Change, yan ang totoong change is coming. Because
yung change.
Si Secretary Briones has done a very independent, especially since nag-pandemic for 2 years. She's been able to do things that needed to be done initially. Pero kailangan yun push push ng mabuti.
And like this one. So, siya yung nagpa-assess. How are our students doing compared to students the world over? Hindi yung, kasi yung, may nag-misinterpret na naman Sabi, bakit ganyan tayo? Ba't
natin ginagawa sarili? Ba't natin tinatanga sarili natin? Parang
why did we do that na pinapahiya natin yung mga sarili natin at saka mga estudyante natin? Kailangan natin ng assessment. Diagnosis yan
Para yun pong doktor yan. Para malaman kung ano igagamot mo dyan. Dahil talaga naman kailangan to. Dahil sick nga May sakit So, paano mo gagawin yun pag hindi mo napag-aralan kung ano yung talagang problema?
So ngayon, si Inday, si Presumptive VP, meron na siyang meron siyang data.
Yes.
So what they do with that data, well, I hope yung next na yung textbooks. Ang hirap talaga, ang hirap lutasin ng textbooks structural yan
How are you supposed to work that out together with your counterparts? There are in the education and training sector, there are 3 basic agencies aside from NCCA, yung Commission on Higher Education, which is essentially a secretary level function as well, and of course yung TESDA.
Pwede kasing the DepEd can work with the NCCA.
NCCA, actually, if you remember, the old bureaucracy was Department of Education, Culture and Sports.
Yes.
That was the old.
Well, we can't go back to that. It's like putting the genie back in the bottle.
But you have to be
But you have to coordinate.
Kasi importante ito.
Andun yung data Like sa NCCA, yan dun yung education data. And dyan yung dissemination ng cultural information
The other thing as far as the human resource development sector is concerned is yung reintegrate in a sense, kasi nawala bigla nagkaroon ng separate wing ang TESDA from the labor, from the Department of Labor, which should not be the case. Kasi yan yung magkasama mix and match
You need the data from the DOLE to create your programs para nasasagot natin yung mga sectors na kulang. Daming pag-uusapan. Daming gagawin ni BBM. But syempre, renewed, energized, and buoyed up by 31 million votes na mandato. Congratulations.
Wala na tayong magagawa doon. By the way, ha?
That's it, pansit. Maraming salamat sa pagsubaybay sa Karambola nitong araw na ito. Antabayan ang susunod na programa sa Vision Lubos, 882 with Sir Vic De Leon Lima. May tambayan po mamaya with Attorney Osam Ahmed Paglinawan. We'll see you then. Ako po si Tixie Cruz Angeles.
Karambola.
Sumayin niyo ang programang Karambola sa DWIZ. Hanggang sa muli, tayo'y magbabalik upang ihatid ang pagtalakay sa iba't ibang mga issue. Dito pa rin sa programang Karambola sa DWIZ.